your host, and today my guest is Jaspa Fletcher.
How you going, Jack?
G'day, Jaspa. How you going, mate? Thanks for jumping on. I'll quickly give everyone the rundown for those that are unaware of you at this stage, and then we can get into the questions, mate. But obviously, you're an up-and-coming star AFL player for the 2022 draft. And love hanging out with family and friends and playing golf, which we'll discuss some of the things that you do outside of footy. Local club Sherwood Magpies, NAB League, the Brisbane Lions Academy, which you've been with, as we're discussing off air, for some time now. And of course, your team, your Barrack for the Brisbane Lions. For those new to the podcast, our mission here is to empower aspiring athletes and staff with practical knowledge for some of the industry's most inspiring individuals and to strengthen the AFL community. If you like the show, please show your support by following us on Instagram and subscribing to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. But welcome, Jaspa. Thanks for jumping on, mate.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Sorry about the little technical things there, getting the phones hooked up and the computer and Zoom and all the bits and pieces, but we did it. Persistence pays. For those that aren't aware of your work, mate, take us back to the very beginning. At what age did you start playing footy?
Yeah, so was born and bred down in Victoria, down in Williamstown. That's when Dad put a footy in my hands and moved up here when I was 4 and joined the Auskick when I was 5 or 6 around then. And ever since then, I've just kicked the Sharon around, it's been a great journey. So, yeah.
Yeah. And have you got brothers, sisters? Take us through the family setup.
Yeah, so I've got one younger sister. She's involved in middle distance running, which I'm not a big fan of. And then mum and dad, mum's got a sporting background as well, played basketball for Australia and 300 games in the WNBL. So I get most of my athletic traits from her. And then dad was lucky enough to also play AFL footy for 230 so games, and went all right. So
yeah, fantastic, mate. Yeah, so athleticism is definitely in the genes. Did you play basketball growing up as well? Did mum influence you early, or was it all footy?
Yeah, no, mum did get me in the side of basketball, except I was too small back then. So people used to post me up and we concede a lot of points, and always a pass first type of guard. And so just moved over to footy and had more success over there.
Yep. And on that one, like for the athletes listening in, how important is it early days, let's say before the age of 16, to play different sports? Do you feel like it helps your footy?
Oh, 100%, especially basketball, the poise side of things and the decision-making. You're in a sort of a confined space, 5-on-5, and sometimes the courts feel smaller than it actually is. And I think translating over to footy, that helps around stoppages and contests where you got to try and find your way out and use the ball by hand or foot. So I definitely do encourage playing multiple sports growing up, and then you can find that one that you're really interested in and, put a lot of work and time into it.
Yeah, and talk us through once you made that sort of shift towards playing many different sports to start and to pour all your focus into football.
Yeah, so like I said before, I wasn't having much success in basketball, being quite small. And then over at footy, I just enjoyed it a lot more. And I thought that, if obviously Dad put a footy in my hands when I was quite young, I fell in love with the game. And just worked in a lot on my footy and my skills and that, and just, sort of got me to where I am today.
Yeah. And did that shift focus when you started taking it more seriously from when you're having fun as a kid to then thinking, okay, this is something I want to pursue as a career?
Yeah, of course. Through my whole career, I've always found footy fun. There's some times in some tough sessions you maybe rethink your decisions, but through my whole journey, I think 12 or so years, I've always had fun kicking a footy. So yeah.
Awesome, mate. And mention your dad played for Brisbane. Take us through your connection. Obviously, it's at some stage you moved up north. Talk us through that change in school and footy and how you managed that, but also the Brisbane Academy. Take us through your involvement there.
Yeah, so moved up here when I was 4. Don't remember much from when I was down in Vic. Only a few things when I was down at the footy watching Dad play, and he went all right. But moving up here was a good change for me and my family. Obviously, Dad was part of the Brisbane Lions group. Just being around footy up here and seeing the footy in Queensland develop. Obviously coming from a Vic state where footy is so prominent, to now Queensland state where footy is growing. It's been unreal to sort of watch that change happen. And the Brisbane Lions Academy is also a great program. A lot of kids go through there, and there's been a lot of successful kids come out into the AFL now. So,
what does a typical week look like, let's say, in pre-season, and then how does it change in season with the academy?
The academy? Yep.
Yeah.
So normally with the academy, pre-season wise, we do 3 sessions a week. It's a lot of heavy conditioning and a lot of skill-based stuff to really get you fine-tune your skills. And then moving through the season, there's a lot of focus on gym programs, getting stronger, more athletic and that sort of thing. And then training more comes about quality over quantity, doing some fine-tuning skills on some game plan things, and to prepare for the opponent ahead on the weekend.
Oh, very good. And going back to influences, mate, you've mentioned your dad and your mum and your sister, super athletic and hardworking family. Who have been some other mentors, if you like, that have helped shape your career so far?
Yeah, I think I have to shout out to my pop, my grandparents. He's always been there. He's helped me being a better person ever since I could understand that sort of topic. And he's always pushed me along really hard and told me, you have to work really hard to get the things that you want to achieve. And so ever since then, he's just been a great person, a great role model for me.
Very good. And the goal of getting drafted, which is something you've worked towards for a number of years now. You talked about the hard work with the conditioning, working on your skills, the gym work. How much time and energy would you be putting in your football over pre-season? Would there be a day that you have off in a week, or are you doing something every day? And then how does that change in season in terms of days on, days off for you?
Yeah, so pre-season's pretty heavy loading period for a lot of AFL athletes trying to make it, I think, into the professional league. For me, it consists of three sessions of a lot of skills and heaps of running. And I was also doing 3 sessions outside of that in the gym. So I only really have 1 day off. And even on that day off, I try and stay as active as possible to prevent, obviously, some soreness and just get my body right for some sessions ahead. During footy season, it's obviously you got the training with your club or the academy or whoever you're playing with. So you get that ticked off. And then a lot of it does focus in on the gym and making sure your body does stay right and that through the year and prevent injury, which is a big thing nowadays. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of changing going from pre-season to season, but most of the concepts stay the same with your skills and trying to get stronger or leaner in that sort of way. So,
yep. And for those listening in that are playing that under 16s, under 17s level, what do you feel is the biggest jump from going into your draft year? Is it more the mental stress of managing school with your draft year, the pressure that comes with that, or is it more the physical load? Do you feel of like what you've just mentioned, pretty high workload?
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I graduated school last year. So going to uni this year, I've been able to sort of manage my timetable a little bit more and defer when needed to focus in on footy. I think the biggest challenge this year has been just to stay mentally fresh. It's a long year. Obviously you had to go for a little bit and the draft's not till November. So staying mentally fresh and keeping your mind busy during times because it still is quite a bit away even now. So I think just staying busy outside of footy is a real big key thing in your draft year.
Yeah. And what are some things that you like to do outside of football? Keep yourself busy.
Yeah. So like you mentioned before, I do like to play a bit of golf. Sometimes might not go my way. Been learning to hit out of the forest a little bit in the trees.
Yep.
And I like catching up with mates and that sort of thing. Just taking it real easy, playing some other sports like basketball, like you said, just real casual. So,
yep, very good. And in terms of career highlights, mate, what are some things that pop up first in mind that you look back fondly and proud of as well?
Yeah, I think I've had some few this year. Obviously, being able to have the honour of being the skipper of the Allies group is something I do hold pretty close to me, as well as being able to represent the Australian team this year early against Collingwood. I think that's probably, number one up there. But through the years, I've made some state teams, which I've been pretty proud of. But I think those two are the main ones that are pretty special to me.
Yeah. And when another one for the athletes tuning in, the footballers, take us through like a typical week of what are your sort of your key focuses on a game. If you've played on the Saturday, we're now on a Sunday, so one day post leading up to a Saturday game. Let's say, for a high stakes game. which every game obviously is important, but yeah, 2 important games in your draft year. How do you go about each day? What are your sort of key focuses from the start through to leading up to game day?
Yeah, so with a Saturday game, I do like to jump in the pool after, get a bit of cold water on my legs, which does ease the soreness a little bit the next day. But on Sunday, I do jump back in there and do like some light activity, go for a walk, have a little bit of a swim just to keep the body moving, the blood flow. And then I do focus a lot about nutrition. I think that's a really key thing that some athletes may put not as important as other things. So making sure to stay, well nutrition, hydrated as well. Big thing is having a lot of water, especially after a game. Been through, it's a pretty heavy contest during a game and running so many Ks. To get the hydration in after a game is pretty important. And then leading to the week, obviously you have your sessions, your main sessions, training, footy, gym. I think just to stay loose, a lot of recovery in between them, stretching, trigger balling. Those are really important. That do go a long way in the end.
Yep. And you mentioned the importance of recovery early on when you're finding what worked for your body. You mentioned how important it is to try and reduce the soreness. Did you lean on like older teammates or peers or your parents? Like, how did you go about finding ways to optimize your recovery early in the week?
Yeah, I reached out to a few strength and conditioning trainers in the academy, which were really helpful and give me something to do on my off days. Obviously, speaking with you, you've given me some great things to do leading up into a game. We spoke about sleep and those sort of things. But also, mum and dad have been really helpful, obviously, with a sporting background and what they've experienced through their journeys and what they've sort of picked up on and learnt. And if they had their time again, what they would do differently.
Yeah, very good. And then you mentioned the importance of hydration, nutrition. You said, not everyone is focusing on that area, and it takes some time to sort of get to that elite point where you are starting to look at your lifestyle rather than just your training. When did you make the shift? Was it a particular presentation that you heard? Was it speaking to maybe a Brisbane player or someone that you look up to? Take us through that light bulb moment where you thought, okay, I'm going to start changing how I eat.
Yeah, through school, I've always been really interested in human movement. I was lucky to get my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness, which has got a lot of base on obviously your training aspects and the nutrition side of things. And then following up at uni, I was doing a nutrition course as well. So those sort of things do contribute to how I feel about it today. But also, with mum and dad playing sporting backgrounds, and I was pretty lucky enough to, at the Lions boys, train with them pre-season, see what they eat during the day and on their off days has been, stuck with me, and I've tried to replicate that.
And for those that haven't been seen how an AFL player typically eats, what were some big changes that you made with your nutrition habits from what you're eating before to how you're eating now?
Yeah, I think putting time into it is really important. It can get pretty time consuming, but if you plan it out really well, you'll save time and make sure to eat clean. I think that's the main way, just to get your protein, your carbs in, and the veggies. Being an athlete, nutrition is very important. So if you can fill your plate up with a bit of protein, some carbs for the energy, and your veggies, you're feeling pretty good.
Oh, well said, mate. And what about on the flip side, some challenges that you've faced over your career, and what have you learnt from those challenges? How has it sort of helped you get better?
Yeah. So through footy up here, from about under 12s to 16s, I was always a little bit smaller. Didn't really hit any growth spurts and had the teenage hormones. So I was always playing a bit lighter and a bit smaller, and that really taught me, how to use my body and the running pattern side of things of AFL and how to get the ball. And then during my 17th year, when I hit the growth spurt, it all came much easier. I was able to win the ball a bit more and take the game on. But during that part of my life, when some boys had a growth spurt, I was playing against some older men. I had my first senior game when I was 16, and I still had needed a growth spurt and was playing pretty light. And just to learn on how to use your body when you're undersized is really important. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges through my journey of AFL.
Yeah, no doubt that's going to pay dividends later on in your career, because obviously as you keep progressing, the bodies get bigger and stronger and faster. with that, talk us about that, because it's interesting. It's not just a matter of just focusing on getting bigger, but actually using what you have. I like that focus that you talked about, using how to use your body. Was that doing, ground balls with bags? Like, talk us through the type of training that you did to help improve how to use your body on the field.
Yeah. So, I did a lot of contested stuff with my dad. Pretty fortunate once again that he did know a fair bit in that area, and I was able to learn a lot of him. And I recently got into boxing as an off legs thing, and that's really helped me embrace contact in contests and use my body a lot more with some movement and that. But yeah, back on the footy side of things, I think if you really focus in on certain aspects like your ground balls, your contested stuff, your tackling, does play dividends.
And the boxing, is it purely using your arms hitting the mitts, or was there a bit of grappling type of boxing involved with it as well?
Yeah, grappling as well. Especially when you're tired, being able to use your body weight to maneuver your opponent is really important. It does play a lot off in AFL, and you do, it might not you might not see the translation across from boxing to AFL, but just that movement and being able to perform while you're under fatigue does help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome, mate. Thank you. That's it's good insight, not only to how you go about things, but also your mindset in terms of working on your weaknesses, not just your strengths. So that's awesome, and good one for those tuning in to listen to in terms of your approach. What about you mentioned the importance of recovery, nutrition. What about from a physical point of view? What are some things that you focus on during main training session to get yourself up to prepare well for the upcoming game?
Yeah, I always try and hit top speed during a training session. I think I'm a big believer in you play the way you train. So I always keep training 100%. And not only that, it makes you feel confident going into the week. You've put in the work during the week. So on game day, you just go out there, have fun. So yeah, make sure to focus on a lot of my skills, ground balls. You can never do too many during training. So those are definitely, and being a midfielder, ground balls do happen pretty often. So yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Yeah, well said again. And what about from you're currently in rehabilitation? For those that aren't aware, with the stress fracture with your foot, what's something? How do you sort of manage your rehab? Is it 1 day at a time? Is it 1 week? Talk us through sort of how you set your goals and how you work on progressing through rehab.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky to have a good support system around me for the rehab of my foot. And we focused on monthly basis. So we put a monthly plan out and tick each day off. About 5 days of training, 2 days rest day. So yeah, we just tick every day off and make sure to, check there's no awareness in my foot and any of that sort of thing, and make sure, everywhere else in my body is feeling good. And not overtraining and getting too fatigued and all that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned the support. What type of support do you have access to at the academy? What type of staff members?
Yeah, so I've been pretty lucky. Obviously, Zane Littlejohn plays a big part in the organising of it all. Breno Wellington, he's new to the academy. He's been really good this year for me and the boys. He's pushed us really hard, and very thankful for what he's done for us boys. And then also being a part of the Brisbane VFL program, and Chris Brennan, he's been terrific in helping me with my rehab with my foot.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Are you a quote man? Have you got a favourite inspirational quote that you like to draw on, or a life motto?
Not really. I just like work hard. I think, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's probably one I've had since I've been 12 years old. And a lot of people have heard it, but yeah, it's a pretty good quote that I do draw on a fair bit.
Yeah. Makes sense. And it's consistent with how you've said all the way through with your work ethic. What about in your work life? Is there anything in football that sort of is a pet peeve or makes you angry when you see it, or maybe a teammate does?
Not really. I haven't really focused. I think in training, when you're having a tough training, under the fatigue and you can't get some skills right, you do get in your head a little bit. But I think it's very important to sort of come back and, focus on your breath and refocus on what you're doing and you get your skills right.
Yeah. And do you have a favourite holiday destination? Obviously, they're outside of Queensland. Queensland's a pretty special place to live at the moment.
Yeah.
But is there where you'd like to go if you're on holiday?
Yeah, well, I haven't been overseas yet, so that's somewhere I want to get to hopefully in the next few years. But down in Victoria, in Gippsland, Lakes Entrance, It's a beautiful place where me and my family go every Christmas, and hopefully get down there a fair bit in the next few years. It's just good to get out on the boat. All my family meets down there, and the weather's normally pretty good, except for the year the bushfires came across. That was
Absolutely.
a tough Christmas, but ever since then, it's been unreal.
Yeah. Well done. And what about, you've mentioned how you like to hang out with mates and play golf. Talk us through when you have a day off footy, do you have a morning routine and everything structured, or do you prefer to sort of go with the flow and to see what comes?
Yeah, on my day off, I normally try to get 8 to 10 hours. So that involves me sleeping in a little bit.
Yep.
I do. But once I sort of get up, I like to go for a bit of a walk, listen to some music, just relax a little bit, get the legs moving. Obviously, I've had a few tough days training before that. So yeah, once I get the legs moving, then obviously I'll head out to the golf course or hang out with my mates, where just be quite casual and just relax for the rest of the day. And then coming home that night, make sure to eat well for the next day ahead, and do a little bit of release and trigger balling on some sore spots I might have.
Very good. Yeah. So obviously recovery is something you focus on a fair bit. So it sounds like you do water immersion, ball work, massage with your own trigger release. What about, do you do saunas as well, or is that something you've tried and it doesn't work for you? Talk us about maybe the flip side, some recovery methods that you don't like, deep tissue massage, some things that you've tried in the past that just doesn't work for you.
Yeah, well, I haven't tried sauna too often. Haven't had access really to one, so sort of hasn't been in my focus. Deep tissue massage can be good, but also very painful at the same time. So you do love to get one, but at the same time, you hate it in the moment. But that has worked for me. But doing ice baths and release ball triggering are the two main ones for me.
Yeah. And talking about 2022, mate, you mentioned you ticked off your first intro to run and you're feeling good and recovered well from that. What does the rest of the rehab look like until you're fully football ready?
Yeah, so it's just building my running load up. I've been keeping it pretty light and low volume for the last couple of sessions. So building that up is definitely my goal. And hopefully, with the combine coming up, I won't, at the moment it's sort of unlikely that I'll test, but hopefully after that I can do a little bit of testing to put out there for some results, because I haven't tested this year. Did my calf early this year, so I haven't really had to test much this year. And I do enjoy testing as much as, it can be pretty nerve-wracking. I like to see where I'm at. So hopefully get that in would be nice.
Yep. And what are you excited about for the rest of 2022, mate? What's on the horizon for you? It sounds like there's a pretty good year for you.
Yeah, well, hopefully it all goes well at the draft this year, which is pretty exciting for every footy boy involved in it this year. It's good to see, your mates around you achieve their goal and also achieve your goal yourself. But I think, Christmas is always a highlight, getting down with my family, and then hopefully starting pre-season at an AFL club.
Yeah, very good, mate. Awesome. And for those that want to get in contact, either listening to the live on Instagram or for those listening to the podcast recording, is there a place where people can get in contact, maybe DM you and ask a question about your game or how to get better?
Yeah, Instagram's the place. Always check my messages just in case for any questions, or my mates always text me on there, so it's definitely the spot to ask anything if you do have a question.
Very good. Yeah, well, for those listening in, we'll add the Jaspa's handle and in the show notes in the podcast, as well as the YouTube comment section. So thank you for tuning in. If you tuned halfway through, make sure to watch the YouTube recording, and we'll post the podcast next Wednesday. Jaspa, have you got any final words or anything that we've missed today that you wanted to discuss?
Nah, not at all. Just thank you for having me. Really appreciate you having me on and being a part of your program this year.
Awesome. Jaspa, it's been great to have you on, mate. Absolute honor and great to share. I big believer that success leaves clues. So it's great for the listeners to be able to hear how you go about your craft. And, by the sounds of it, there's no magic pill. It's a matter of hard work and doing all the controllables really, really well and consistently well over time, mate. So it's a great message that you're living. So thank you for jumping on and sharing with us. And thank you for everyone that tuned in. And like I mentioned, that you can watch the YouTube if you tuned in late. Make sure you watch the full recording, as Jaspa's provided gems all the way through. And if you want to listen to the podcast, that will be published next Wednesday. I'll see you guys on the next episode. We've got Joshua Manuel, who's the strength and conditioning coach at the Adelaide Crows, this Thursday at 5:00. I'll see you guys then.